Brexit.
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 Brexit. We will make breakfast. Brexit.
Brexit, a word now becoming synonymous with chaos, distrust and government failings. Today is the 28th of March 2019, one day before the United Kingdom was set to leave the European Union. However, as has been evident from the past week's events, it is clear that this will not happen. My name is Tristan Fangord, and I'm going to be answering one question. Brexit. How did we get here?
The British people have voted to leave the European Union, and their will must be respected. But I do not think it would be right for me to try to be the captain that steers our country to its next destination.
For me, this was the moment that the Brexit chaos began. The official announcement that the United Kingdom would be exiting the European Union had only just been released, and the Prime Minister at the time, David Cameron, confirmed that he'd be stepping down. At a time when the country needed continuity, unity, and most importantly, a strong leader, instead we got insecurity, a feeling of doubt, and a Conservative Party leadership contest filled with lies, betrayal, and at the end of it, a Prime Minister that was pro-Remain forced to push on with a decision she did not fully support. However, push on she did. And in late 2016 to early 2017, Prime Minister Theresa May was ready to initiate Article 50. The treaty, which read any member state may decide to withdraw from the Union in accordance to their own constitutional requirements, would begin the countdown clock, giving the United Kingdom just 2 years to fully withdraw from Europe. However, even this would not be without its problems. It was noted that the United Kingdom's constitution may not give Parliament the right to trigger such an act without Parliament backing. The government argued that the use of prerogative powers to enact the referendum result was constitutionally proper. However, arguments against suggested that prerogative powers could not be used to set aside rights previously established by Parliament. Then would begin the long judicial hearing, which resulted in the High Court on the 24th of January, concluding that the UK government may not withdraw from Europe by formal notification of the Council of Europe, as prescribed by Article 50, without the Act of Parliament. The government did appeal this decision, but the Supreme Court overturned the appeal, upholding the lower court stance on the decision. And finally, in February 2017, after much internal bickering, the government finally gave in and asked for a vote within Parliament. This vote would give her the powers to initiate Article 50.
Order.
The ayes to the right, 498. The noes to the left, 114.
The ayes to the right, 498. The noes to the left, 114. So the ayes have it. The ayes have it. Unlock.
So why all these initial problems? On one hand, you could take the more optimistic view, that this was just a demonstration of good government accountability. By holding the government to account, it upheld the customs and laws that as a nation we often rely on to prevent tyranny. With this view, it was right to delay Article 50. Only when Parliament has dotted all of the I's and crossed all of the T's can major legislation be formally enacted and retracted. And as this was such a major change within our system, all procedures must be followed exactly. Alternatively, and perhaps more likely, this was a clever stalling technique. With the inevitability of Article 50 being triggered, and MPs being mostly pro-Remain at the time, there was a feeling of disbelief and anger at the result of the referendum. And as such, these feelings would be directed towards any legislation or government aimed at altering the status quo. And so with these feelings fresh in the mind of MPs, they backed the challenge against the government, starting the delay to Brexit that we're still feeling today. And so, 2 years ago, in March 2017, Sir Tim Barrow, the UK representative to the European Union, handed the formal declaration to Donald Tusk, President of the European Council, saying, "So here it is, 6 pages. There is no reason to pretend that this is a happy day." And perhaps that summarised the feeling of the government, forced to enact something they did not believe in, splitting the country down the middle over a single issue, and further isolating the pro-Remain Scotland from the rest of the United Kingdom. These issues would become real as soon as the article was triggered. Pressures from Parliament, the European Union, as well as the devolved United Kingdom powers would be placed firmly upon Theresa May's shoulders, and as she began to do battle with the external forces along with her own party, it would become apparent that she was fighting a losing battle. A battle that would become more difficult after perhaps the biggest mistake of her career. In 2017, she decided to hold a snap election. Up to this point, Theresa May had a strong majority, with David Cameron leading the party to a 12-seat majority in 2015. And as such, Theresa May had no issue whipping her MPs into line, allowing any legislation to get through Parliament with relative ease. Yet, even though she was riding the blue wave that David Cameron initiated, she still did not believe that the mandate from the people belonged to her. And so on the 28th of April 2017, she unveiled the biggest mistake of her career.
I have just chaired a meeting of the Cabinet where we agreed that the government should call a general election to be held on the 8th of June. Our opponents believe, because the government's majority is so small, that our resolve will weaken and that they can force us to change course. They are wrong. They underestimate our determination to get the job done.
Little did Theresa May know what would follow. With the election just months away, both Labour and the Conservatives began campaigning as hard as they could. Theresa May started by appealing to the traditional voters of the over 35s, reaffirming her statements of strong and stable in order to convince voters that her option was better than the alternative. Whereas Labour began with an alternative approach. Using events such as festivals to drum up support, Jeremy Corbyn began appealing to the younger voters and presented himself as a likeable leader that was truly on the side of the people. And where youth turnout had been a terrible 44% in 2015, in 2017 this all changed as a record 65% turned out to cast their vote and change the direction of politics. The reasoning for this increase in youth turnout may have been a reaction to the government's previous policies, including increasing university tuition fees. Additionally, anger in the youth community over the Brexit result created a reactionary force that motivated many 18-24-year-olds to oppose the government. Whatever the reason for this increase in youth voter turnout, it certainly played a part in what was to follow.
Theresa May still in office, but just how much power does she have? The election she called that she promised not to delivered not the thumping majority she sought, but in fact, no majority at all.
Having secured the largest number of votes and the greatest number of seats in the general election, it is clear that only the Conservative and Unionist Party has the legitimacy and ability to provide that certainty by commanding a majority in the House of Commons.
The election backfired spectacularly. With Conservatives losing 22 seats and Labour gaining 21 of those, Theresa May was forced to look elsewhere for some support. That support came in the form of a small Irish Unionist party named the DUP. This confidence and supply arrangement with the DUP gave Northern Ireland £1 billion in return for the support of their 10 MPs within Parliament. This gave the Conservatives a combined 307 votes, just enough to secure a majority. And perhaps this is when the avalanche of chaos really began to gain traction. The definition of chaos is complete disorder and confusion. And with so many different forces attempting to pull Theresa May in their direction, it is no wonder that we are where we are today. After all, too many cooks spoil the broth. So, with as many cooks as possible within the metaphorical kitchen, Theresa May had to begin formulating a bill that would allow the United Kingdom to leave the European Union while satisfying the demands of the public, the hard and soft Brexiteers, as well as Europe itself. After months of negotiations with Europe on everything from fishing to human and immigrant rights, Theresa May finally, in November 2018, was ready to present the Chequers Bill to the world and get ready to transition the United Kingdom swiftly and smoothly out of the European Union. Or so she thought. The main issue for Theresa May was the problematic minority that had been produced from the general election. With rebels such as Jacob Rees-Mogg stating they would oppose a soft Brexit bill, the Prime Minister was relying on the DUP votes now more than ever. However, there was one major issue. The DUP wouldn't support her over the so-called backstop with Northern Ireland. The major issue is that Northern Ireland is in the United Kingdom and thus would be leaving Europe, whereas Southern Ireland would remain in Europe as it is a separate entity from the United Kingdom. And as such, there were concerns over a hard border between the two countries, especially as historically a border has triggered violence and disruption. As a result, Theresa May had negotiated a backstop. This agreement was an insurance policy that would ensure that no matter what, there would be no hard border. Even if the United Kingdom left without a deal, there would be no border checks and restrictions between Northern and Southern Ireland. However, this border would move to the Irish Sea, and new checks would be imposed between Northern Ireland and the rest of the United Kingdom, which according to the DUP would threaten the union between the United Kingdom and Northern Ireland itself. And so, with troubling levels of support from both her party and the DUP, Theresa May felt it was time to allow Parliament to vote on her deal. If the vote was successful, Theresa May could press on with the process of exiting the United Kingdom from the European Union, safe in the knowledge that she had brought back some stability to the proceedings.
The ayes to the right, 202. The noes to the left, 432.
This was a major defeat. Parliament did not support her, and all work to secure the deal with Europe was now put into question. Europe said they would not renegotiate, the DUP said they would not support her due to the backstop, and Parliament's issues with Europe having a say in how long the UK remained in the customs union meant there was no support for the bill. This placed the United Kingdom in a perilous place. The mistakes made by Theresa May up to this point had finally caught up with her. She had lost the majority, given Northern Ireland £1 billion for no reason, and negotiated a soft Brexit with Europe that would never be passed through Parliament. And so, being stuck between a rock and a hard place, she had to retract her bill, change it, and try again.
The ayes to the right, 242. The noes to the left, 391.
It was clear that her changes had done nothing. Promising that the United Kingdom would not be a puppet state to Europe and that no hard border would happen between the UK and Northern Ireland wasn't enough. And for the second time, Theresa May was defeated in Parliament, with many claiming her deal was dead in the water. This plunged the UK into further chaos. With only 2 weeks until the 29th of March, something needed to be done, and there was only one thing left: get an extension to Article 50. This extension, if approved by all EU member states, would allow the United Kingdom to remain in Europe longer than the 2 years indicated by Article 50 in order to allow a new deal to be passed through government and restore some order to proceedings. However, this extension would not be unconditional. The EU announced it would allow the UK to remain for longer if it had an exit bill passed, and shorter if no decision on the United Kingdom future was made. This placed further pressures on Theresa May. Not only could she not guarantee that the bill would be passed, but a petition to revoke Article 50 gained support from over 5 million citizens in the United Kingdom, and over 500,000 people took to the streets to oppose Brexit on the 24th of March. It was now clear that the country's future was in doubt. However, with Parliament in deadlock, matters were about to be taken up Theresa May's hands. Members of Parliament voted in favour of holding indicative votes. These votes would happen to give direction to Brexit, indicating which options the majority of MPs would be in support for. And these options included leaving the EU with no deal on 12th of April, unilaterally dropping the plan to leave the EU if no deal is reached by 12th of April, a new referendum on any deals to leave the EU, leaving the EU but staying in the customs union, 2 variations of leaving the EU but staying in the European Economic Area and rejoining the European Free Trade Association, negotiating changes to the withdrawal agreement more in line with Labour Party's position, and agreeing with the EU a period of 2 years in which the UK goods will have full access to EU markets.
It is, of course, a very great disappointment that the House has not chosen to find a majority for any proposition.
MPs rejected every option. For the first time, Parliament officially made it clear that they were so divided that no option would be passed. This leaves Theresa May in a predicament. It appears as if her deal will never get passed. MPs cannot unite, the public seems to be turning against her, backed by figures such as Donald Tusk, a loud voice in favour of revoking Article 50 has begun to rise up. Additionally, the original mandate from the people has begun to expire, and the EU are placing greater pressures on her, with their own elections fast approaching in May. As a result, Theresa May played her trump card. After surviving 2 confidence votes up to this point, she announced that she would resign if MPs voted for her bill. This would encourage MPs who dislike her to vote for the bill in order to remove her from power. Therefore, a vote will occur this Friday, the 29th of March, and could be crucial in dictating a way forward. However, with the history of votes in mind, many are unsure if it will pass. So we have now reached the day before the UK was originally due to leave the EU. And we can answer the initial question posed: how did we get here? Well, the answer can be found in a combination of factors. Theresa May was placed into a job after Prime Minister gambled his success on a referendum. Taking the helm of a divided ship, she had to begin starting from scratch to leave the EU. Some of the blame must be placed on her. It is clear that through poor decision making, such as holding a general election, she lost her ability to get legislation through Parliament with ease, thus injecting chaos into the proceedings. Additionally, though she had paid for the support from DUP, this would come to no avail. However, the blame cannot be solely placed on her. The disunity of MPs within Parliament have often made it impossible for Brexit to happen smoothly, and the turbulent nature of inter-party politics has caused disruption to the Brexit process that inevitably caused delay and chaos. Finally, after trust and confidence was lost in Parliament, large sections of the public have grown tired of Brexit and have turned against government. Both sides of the argument want this to be over, and there is no clear way forward, and many are campaigning for a return to the state before the referendum occurred. Chaos has come from multiple sources, with each factor emphasising the other and adding fuel to the fire. Currently, there is no clear way forward, and only time will tell what the resolution will be. However, in order for whatever outcome is chosen to be enacted smoothly, it is time that MPs and the government aligned on their decision, although this is looking unlikely. This process started with a referendum, and perhaps it will end with one too. It seems fitting that a people's vote in the name of democracy started this political mess, and a people's vote should end it too. I've been Tristan Fancourt, talking about the Brexit process, and thank you for listening.